an Xbox One video for a change, because the Xbox One has finally been freed. It is technically possible now to hack the Xbox One. The method has been revealed here in this talk by Markus Gaasedelen at the Reverse Orlando 2026 conference. So you can go ahead and check that out. I'll leave a link to the full talk in the video description. It is about an hour long, but it's definitely worth a watch, going over the insane lengths that Markus took to be able to actually make this hack a reality. And we're talking about a full hack for the Xbox One in the same level as something like an RGH for the Xbox 360. So a very significant exploit here, especially on a console that many considered to be unhackable, when you consider the fact that the, PS4 and Xbox One released around the same time. And of course, the PS4 has had so many hacks from, 2016 onwards till now. If you think about how many different hacks have come out for the PlayStation 4 during that time. And during that entire period, the Xbox One security has remained intact and has not had a significant exploit to this degree. So that is now about to change. Now, I'm not going to go over all of the stuff that was covered in this talk, because obviously I don't want this video to be over an hour long. I highly recommend going to the actual talk itself and watching the talk if you're interested in all of the information about how he managed to get this hack going. But we're mainly going to be focusing here on the impact of this hack. So the hack itself uses glitches, so like voltage injection to skip certain instructions, to be able to glitch the console in different ways, and similar to something like the RGH in that respect. But basically this has two glitches. So the first glitch is used to skip the MPU enablement, so the memory protection units, the instructions that enable that are essentially skipped with this glitch, which allows the user to tamper with supervisor memory, also gives us read, write, and execute for free. And then there's a second glitch to hijack PC as user and jump user into parallel SP1 header to read in our shellcode. The shellcode is then executed as user, can carefully corrupt saved supervisor registers because NPU is off, executes supervisor call SV0 and hijacks the supervisor execution via corrupted LR, and then achieves arbitrary code execution as supervisor during SP0, no higher privilege on the entire system. Now, the crucial thing with this exploit is that it happens very early in the boot flow, in the SP0 boot ROM, before a lot of the other security measures are loaded in. So because of that, it effectively bypasses all of those additional security measures and is able to get effectively full control over the system. Because it also happens so early in the boot process, it makes it unpatchable. So it's not likely that Microsoft are going to be able to patch this with some kind of firmware update either. So the consequences are detailed in this slide, saying obtains arbitrary code execution as supervisor in context of SP0 before any meaningful key transformations, before any code or bootloader revocation checks. So the exploit effectively takes place before any of that extra security measures can be loaded in. And this level of compromise enables the ability to decrypt, load, patch, and execute unsigned code at every level. The platform security processor, the SCP, the hypervisor, the host OS, the game OS, and the system OS can all be compromised using this. Now, if you think back to sort of previous exploits that we've had for the Xbox One and Series consoles, we had the collateral damage exploit a while ago, and that one was effectively a kernel exploit, but only in the system OS. Because it only affected the system OS, it was quite limited in what you could do. It also relied on an application that was used to actually load it. It was a software-based exploit, and it was easily patched by Microsoft in an update. Not only that, but it required an application downloaded from the store. So they removed the application from the store, making it very difficult to impossible for anybody who didn't already have the application to get it loaded on their console on a vulnerable firmware. So it was very, very limited because of this. Whereas this exploit compromises everything. System OS, game OS, host OS, hypervisor, SCP, and PSP all compromised using this. It gives Oracle access to the crypto coprocessor, enabling decryption of all games, firmware, content, and updates past, present, and future. He states that this is important for preservation efforts to be able to obviously preserve Xbox One games into the future, being able to dump them. Also better console repairability, unpaired NAND and unpaired ODD, so the optical disk drive. So for instance, having this level of exploit is great for repairers, because if you have things like broken disk drives, you can get a new disk drive and pair it to the console with this exploit. So all of that stuff is fantastic. So in terms of what consoles are affected, it's the 2013 launch model, so the original VCR Xbox One, that is affected by this exploit. Now, of course, that is the one that he was specifically working on, was a 2013 launch model, I believe. He says year one Zorro SoCs had hardware-based anti-glitching monitors fused off. So the 2013 launch models did have this extra protection measure of anti-glitching monitors, which were off on those particular consoles. These side channel monitors, as you can see here, fused off for launch because they were unstable. But then there was a revision of the console released, I believe, in the fall of 2014, and those consoles had that anti-glitching monitors on. So that's an extra thing that would need to be bypassed in the 2014 and onward Xbox One models. However, Markus strongly believes that this can be worked around by effectively glitching past the monitor enablement if they're tripping. So theoretically, he believes that it should be possible for all of the original fat model Xbox Ones to be exploitable using this particular hack, the Bliss hack. Now, the Xbox One S and Xbox One X, he did look into these. He says that the boot continued to evolve and has been hardened even further. There's a reset processor plus a security processor, and the techniques described here have relevant application towards attacking these systems. He did a lot of work to enable certain debugging of the boot process, like enabling postcodes. So it seems the hack is not going to just work on the Xbox One S and X, but certainly a lot of the stuff that was discovered here could be applied to the S and X to be able to study the boot process of that console and figure out some kind of similar hack to be able to exploit those consoles too. So it could certainly help towards a future hack for those consoles too. And then we also have the Xbox Series S and X, which have not been investigated at all. And I would be very surprised if a lot of stuff was applicable on those systems too, but we'll have to wait and see for other people to investigate that. So he also states that a mod chip is very possible for something like this. You know, he did have a lot of stuff hooked up to his motherboard, but a lot of that was for debugging and testing and for analyzing the boot process. So a more refined, mod chip that's just designed to do the hack alone would likely not be too difficult to install. He also stated that his current implementation takes anywhere from a minute to 30 minutes to actually, get the console booted with the exploit. So that's why he didn't do like a live demo in the actual talk itself. So it does take a long time to actually boot. However, he does say that it could be streamlined to boot within a second. So he doesn't think that's going to be too much of a problem in terms of, the timing, just because his takes a long time. If it's refined, it could certainly boot a lot faster. So I wouldn't worry too much about that at the moment. However, he states that it's not going to be by him. He's not going to make a mod chip. It seems that he wanted to do this just as a challenge because the Xbox One was known to be unhackable, kind of a hold my beer situation. It doesn't look like he's actually interested in, releasing a mod chip for this. However, he did take care to try and document this as best as possible and also try to make it as reproducible as possible for other people. So it's very likely that other hackers in the scene will be able to reproduce this and maybe make their own mod chip available to the public so that we can all install this on our Xbox Ones if you have one of the original VCR style consoles. So it will definitely be interesting to see what we can do with the Xbox One once it is fully unlocked, once the training wheels are fully removed, which is fantastic. So I'm definitely excited to see where this goes. There's so much great stuff happening in the console hacking world at the moment. You've got this new hack for the Xbox One. You've also got, of course, Linux for the PS5 that is being ported by the Flow, which could be released anytime now. We've got new ways to load kernel exploits on higher firmwares on the PS5. Lots of interesting stuff happening. We even have a userland exploit that could potentially load homebrew on the latest firmwares on the PS4 and PS5. So much interesting stuff happening right now. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to cover all of it. I'll try and cover as much as I can, but obviously there's a limit depending on, if everything all comes out at the same time. But we'll see how it goes. I definitely want to cover as much as I can. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, I will hopefully see you guys in the next